Hi everyone and welcome to the Football Analyst. Today we're going to take a look at Liverpool FC and some of the more interesting changes they made in their recent 2-0 win against West Ham in the Premier League. So a few things that was noticeable was the impact of dropping Salah. So Mohamed Salah did not play a single minute in this game. Started on the bench and Szoboszlai played in place of him at right wing. And then also just their defensive structure, just going back to basics. Just being rock solid at the back, getting players back, getting numbers, and shoring up the defensive shape. So those are the two things we're going to take a look at, what I found most notable out of the game. Without further ado, let's get started. So Arne Slot set up in his favoured 4-2-3-1 system, or 4-3-3, however you want to look at it. So this lends itself to a solid defensive unit with the two DMs. So generally with McAllister and Gravenberch, although Gravenberch tends to operate as the pivot. So that offers Liverpool versatility in the build-up phase with the two holding midfielders, and in particular, Wirtz and Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai would often come into little pockets to help out with the build-up, which is much different to what we're used to seeing from Salah. Generally, Salah would either try and invert or get a 1v1 on the flank here, whereas Szoboszlai was coming short. So that was really the slight change, and it had a bit of an impact on how Liverpool were able to build up. But essentially, once they got into the final third phase, this is kind of what it looked like, with Wirtz coming up into this little pocket, Szoboszlai as well. Gomez would often bomb forward as well, so you had Kirkish on the left, Gakpo coming inside onto his favoured right foot. Have this core group of 4 or 5. Generally these 4 with one of the fullbacks kind of holding back depending on the flank that the ball was on. But we'll first look at the impact of dropping Salah and how that affected Liverpool and the game in itself as well. So we'll take a look at just the way they would set up and then look at some examples. So to many people's surprise, Mohamed Salah was not part of the starting 11 and was not subbed on either. This may be an indication of how Slot plans to move forward, as it afforded Liverpool more flexibility in their build-up and better control of possession and in turn the game. In a recent video on Liverpool, we discussed how often Salah is losing possession in these build-up phases and final third phases. However, with Wirtz as the 10 and Szoboszlai on the right, it offered Liverpool 2 players who regularly dropped into pockets to help with the build-up and have greater control of the ball in forward areas, particularly in the final third. It also enabled Liverpool's fullbacks to bomb forward, which we've come to expect, particularly in the Klopp era. So we've come to expect the fullbacks to bomb forward and create this line of 5. You can place Wirtz a bit higher, but he would often kind of sit a little bit off to allow Gakpo to come in. Milos Kerkez was often seen running down this flank as they tended to leave space for him to do so. West Ham didn't seem to want to pick him up, and Liverpool were able to manipulate their shape so they could get him free. But essentially, these 5 were the 5 up front. Whether or not that was both fullbacks on the flanks or it was just the Szoboszlai, Gomez with Wirtz and Gakpo on the other side with Isak in the middle. But essentially that's kind of how they set up. And we'll take a look at a few examples of how merely just the movements of Wirtz and Szoboszlai in particular, almost acting as another 10 from the right, affected how Liverpool were able to progress. And it looked like something we're familiar with Liverpool, the way they would overlap and find space. But if we look at this clip, we can see, if we look at this clip, we can see that Wirtz's movement here, he's trying to get into these pockets very often. And what it does is it drags players with him. So this movement, before it was just one player, but now it's multiple. You've got Wirtz, you've got Szoboszlai, you've got Gakpo, which you'll see in a second. So once we roll this on, it gets flicked to Van Dijk. Wirtz pulls his player away. So he takes the 6 away and Gakpo just rolls into the space. That's very typical running patterns for forwards. Exit the space. If you don't get it, someone comes into the space that you've just vacated and can receive. So as we move forward, we can see Gakpo gets the ball and he's able just to spin. And all of a sudden, Bowen, who was marking Kirkesh, has to pick up Gakpo, and now Gakpo can just lay the ball out in front of Kirkesh, and that's very typical of what Liverpool used to do to get their fullbacks free. If you think of Mane on that side with whoever really they had in the 10 spot, and you'd have Robertson bombing forward. On the other side, Salah would often invert and do this to get Alexander-Arnold free, link up with Firmino as well. So that's what we've come to, we're used to seeing from Liverpool. And if we go to just the heat map of Florian Wirtz, we can see it's just all over the pitch. So just a whole spread of blotches all over the pitch. And we can see he's ended up being his main position in the middle here. So that was where his average position was. But we can see he's collecting it up here. He's collecting it over here with the build-up. He's coming out wide on both flanks. So this is really what Liverpool need. I think he's better suited to a number 10. I think he's warming into the role now, and I think we'll start to see the best of him. And we can take a quick look at his pass map as well. So his pass map, I believe, is going this way. So just see the touches all over the pitch as well. So he's really becoming a more focal point of the play. I think Salah, you can get caught playing to your best player all the time. It becomes predictable. And he's had a difficult start to the season, which we touched on in a previous video. But if we look at this clip, we can see that Szoboszlai is inverted. So he's come up really short. And we don't often see Salah doing this. Salah would tend to stay over here, whereas Szoboszlai is now coming right up forward and almost telling the fullback to come with me, or else I'm going to pick the ball up and we're going to play through. But we can just see the space that Kirkesh has got down the bottom there. And essentially, this helps drag the whole playing group of West Ham across the whole shape, which leaves the space for Kirkesh to run forward and receive that. But as that got played a bit further, we can see Szoboszlai's come right inside, and we can see Gomez's feet up there. And this is very typical. We're used to seeing Robertson and Trent bomb long balls diagonals to each other. And even though it doesn't quite come off, I don't think you'll see the end product out of this clip, but Kirkesh flings it across, and that's the typical space that Liverpool used to create. And it would help them progress the ball right down into the final third and really suffocate teams and just continue to get the ball back in, win the second balls that would bounce out from defences. So I wonder if this is going to be something Slot moves forward with, or he may ask Salah to do more if he's going to play him. But it's something we will wait and see. If we go to the next clip, we can see Liverpool trying to play through the middle this time, and Szoboszlai and Wirtz actually combining. So we can see how tight they already are. So all of them, really. The three that sit behind the striker, so Gakpo, Szoboszlai and Wirtz, and we can see the two fullbacks, so Gomez up the top there and Kirkesh are kind of playing as the wingers. And once we roll this forward, just the classic sort of Liverpool shape where they've got their forwards in the half space, and we can see Szoboszlai and Kirkesh link up. We can still see that Gomez is in a lot of space here, and that simple play through the middle, which we're so used to seeing, as I said, particularly with their Mohamed Salah, Firmino and Mane sort of picking up the ball in those areas. It just gets laid off to Gomez and he's able to put a pretty dangerous ball in. So expect to see more of that going forward, I'd say. But here is just some of these changes on a heat map. So this is a Salah's heat map, and we can just see the proximity of it wide here. So there's not a lot here. There's a little bit, but there's not a huge amount, and there's really nothing in this central part of the field. He's been asked to stay really wide, which in the past he's been trying to get into these areas, whereas he's sort of sitting out here now, and I think it's taking him away from goal, and it's why he's not really been a goal threat at all this season. Conversely, we look at Szoboszlai's average position in this game, And we can see that he pretty much is on the halfway line. Like he's almost in the defensive half, and he's got really big blotches here and enough really there, but plenty sort of in this side of the central, the half space. Lots in the half space. So he's been able to track back. We can see a little bit here. That was something else that he was asked to do that Salah hasn't been either, which we'll touch on a bit later. And then as well, just to round the point home, Gomez has been able to push up the field. So he's been able to really attack this final third, which we've not been seeing from Liverpool either. If we flick through to Connor Bradley's heat map for the season, as probably the most played fullback so far, we can see that he doesn't really hit these areas because that's where Salah is positioning himself. So he's been asked to hang back here, and they're not getting that overlap run, which I think is what's hurting Liverpool at the moment. Particularly just trying to keep the ball in forward areas. Yes, they get it there quite comfortably, but it's keeping it there and applying the pressure. They seem to lose the ball a lot because they don't have that outlet that the fullbacks provide. And they can't hit the byline either because Salah receives it when defence is already set up. Whereas if you have the overlap, they can push it forward. But that was just a quick look at some of the impact of not playing Salah has on the team. And now we'll take a quick look at their defensive structure and how they've really gone back to basics. So defensively, Liverpool kept it simple but performed it to a high level. Again, with Salah not in the side, you could see the more defensively adept and aware Szoboszlai dropped deep to support, with Wirtz and Gakpo also working to double up on any wingers that were trying to get at the fullbacks, Kirkesh in particular. So this was kind of the shape. Szoboszlai and Gomez kind of held things together on this side with Kanate, but I think Liverpool made it a real point to try and protect Kirkesh because Wirtz, McAllister, Gakpo would often come over to support. But they did a much better job at getting teammates across. We can see as this ball is lost, so there's a tackle made there by Paqueta, and West Ham win the ball back. They flick it forward. Szoboszlai is at the ball, so I just want to make this point here. He's at the play right now, and I don't think Salah is ever putting in this effort to recover these days. You can see he pushes all the way back, and he's able to get in the face of Potter, I think it is. I'm not quite sure on the West Ham player, but to get in front of him really and deny the pass into the striker, into Wilson, deny any play, any dribble that way. If that was Salah, I don't think there's anyone here, and what you see is Gravenberch has to come across, which opens up space here. McAllister has to come across, and that's where you get Kirkesh on a bit of an island with whoever's up the back there, and it kind of just pulls everything out of alignments, out of structure, and that's where Liverpool's really been failing. So they've really needed more out of their forwards and midfielders defensively. But yeah, very highly unlikely you'd see this from Salah. If we go to the next clip, we can see again the effort made by the Liverpool players to get back. So West Ham are on a bit of a break here. They've got, ahead of the ball or at the ball, 2-on-2, but we can see just the Liverpool players bursting back, and of which Szoboszlai is one of them. So, and you'll see soon Gakpo and Wirtz come back. So right now, Kirkesh is not in the picture, but they've been able to thwart that. And all of a sudden, before you know it, it's only been a couple seconds, they've got the back four settled, 2 defensive midfielders, and their 3 forwards to come back and help. So they've got really good structure here before West Ham can even think of trying to penetrate after the little mistake. They had their chance and that was it. So a lot better application and work rate. If we go to the next one, and this is a really great one because it shows the defensive instincts of Szoboszlai and how that affects the rest of the team. So Szobo has taken up Gomez's position. So just before we play the clip, we can see he's already here. So there was a bit of a play where he had to go and recover Gomez's position. He was a bit late getting back, and you're probably not seeing that from Salah. So once this ball is lost, which it will be in a second, So it gets played, but it's turned over here. And just the defensive instincts of Szoboszlai to fill in the position, really. The vacant space by Gomez, he understands it. And what that does is it allows Liverpool to get numbers across because they can trust that Szoboszlai is filling in behind Gravenberch so that Gravenberch can fill in behind McAllister. And these two can support Kirkesh in a 1v1 against Bowen, who's, I think Bowen showed that he can be a very dangerous player in the Premier League. And they were really playing down the right too. Most of their attacks were going down the right. They were clearly trying to get at Kirkesh. And just Szoboszlai's work rate and ability to think team enabled Liverpool to really go confidently, the teammates to move confidently over to support Kirkesh, knowing they had support from behind. So really key thing I think they'll continue to carry forward. So there you have it, very quick analysis on the changes Liverpool made and the effect it had on their performance. So will this be a continuing theme, starting with Salah on the bench, possibly subbing him on, maybe starting him at striker instead? Will we see more of Szoboszlai on the right, paired with Wirtz and Gakpo behind Isak? Or was this just a case of their competition not really firing a shot? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Again, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you would like to support the channel and help it grow, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more analysis. This would always be very much appreciated. As always, thank you for watching and may your team be forever winning. Cheers.